Thanks so much for joining us here today. You're about to hear an inspiring message from our Sunday service. And if this message has impacted you in any way, I'd love you to do two things for me. One, send us an email, amen@linkchurch.com. Your feedback, stories, testimonies are so encouraging for us as a church. And two, partner with us financially and help us take this message, the message of the gospel, to the ends of the earth.
Amen. So the idea of this series is we just wanted to start a conversation around human purpose. Perhaps the most asked question, if you like, or most popular question on planet Earth, you could probably even Google it now and see what it would look like, would be, why am I here? What's my purpose, is the word we would use. And so I hear it all the time, not just in young folk that are leaving school, but often people that have been through seasons of life, and I say to them, hey, what is it that you do? And they're like, I don't know, I'm still trying to figure out what my purpose is. And so you can see people passionately trying things, but when it doesn't line up to our purpose, it often doesn't last long. And so this series has been a conversation, I think, trying to redefine, trying to help us rediscover what human purpose is all about. I want to say it hasn't been a series on positioning. You know, some people have changed jobs. One guy came up to me this week. He said, this series helped me realize that what I'm doing is so far from what I'm called to. I said, what did you do about it? He said, a hand in resignation. I said, was that a good call? He said, well, I actually had 3 other opportunities that I was delaying because I wasn't sure. There was a fear in me. And I felt like, just don't delay it anymore. This is your destiny. I handed it and I joined this next opportunity. It's a step down financially, but it's a step up with what God wants to call me to. And I just got excited because actually purpose is a big deal. It's a big deal. And so even though there would be stories like that where your position changes or your place of work changes, I do think that for the most part, for most of us, it's just a shift in perspective. It's like you're probably going to go back to the same job you had yesterday, but hopefully with a fresh perspective. You're probably going to go back to the same family that you were leading yesterday, hopefully, with a fresh perspective. Same children, hopefully, but with a fresh perspective. You see, because work, when I say work, is not just what you do between 8 and 3, or 8 and 4, 8 and 5, or 8 and 11 if you work really hard. You know, it's not just those hours, it's everywhere you spend your breath. It's what your life's work looks like. It's the family that you lead, it's the school that you're in, it's the friendships that you have, and it's the business or the workplace that you're at. And so it's your life's work. And I want to redefine that, give us some fresh perspective. And so just a quick recap, not to take too long on it. We learned kind of 3 big ideas, I believe, in this series. All right. First is that work matters. Matters to God. Matters to others. Because actually what you do is shaping everything around you. Therefore, it ought to matter to us. And so fresh perspective, God, my work matters. It's not menial. It's not mundane. Although it sometimes feels like that. For you, it matters because it's doing something to the world around me. As Adam was told, work this garden. And we looked at how the garden was beaming with potential. Much like your children are beaming with potential, all right? South Africa is beaming with potential, all right? Salt Rock, the North Coast, beaming with potential. And he said to Adam, work it. The word work was subdue, which is to tame, which is to take this wild wasteland, which was Eden, and tame it, make it something beautiful, build the forest into a city. And so your work matters. What we're doing is that we're actually building towards something great in the time to come. So make more of it. It matters. The second thing, we looked at how it not just matters, but it's our ministry. Ministry is our service to the world. It's how we love on the world with what God has loved on us with. All right. And so if you're into marketing, or if you're into education, or if you're into social justice, or if you have a family and you're a full-time mom, whatever it looks like, your work is your ministry. Where you spend your breath is your ministry. It's your service to the world, making it more like Eden. And when we see what we do as a ministry, not just another thing or a task, actually that ministry is a gift to the world. And so people receive what we do as ministry. It's like heaven meets earth when we're at work, all right? And so really powerful. And then Tess looked at work being our message. And actually the way we work, not just what we do for work, but the way in which we do it can be a message to the world. You've seen that person that loves what they do, and you watch them and you think to yourself, I wish that could be me. That's because their work has a message, and the message is you're born for something, and I'm going to do it to the glory of God. And when you see someone do what they do, effortlessly do what they do, like a sportsman or a musician. Last weekend, Sunday night, we had Majorzy playing a live music set here on our deck outside. Sunsets, it was amazing. Anyone at Sunday night last weekend? It was awesome. We're thinking of doing live music once a month. Would that be cool? And so just watching Majorzy, I mean, he only left us 2 years ago to pursue his music career, but watching him put together his music was like jaw-dropping. Because he left here playing guitar and writing songs, he's now producing massive sets from this keys station and computer software, and it's just unbelievable to see what he does. And that's because his work has become his message. It doesn't just matter, it's not just his ministry, it's now his message. And his message is, there's a God who loves you, that loved me, he gifted me with music. What's he gifted you with, all right? And so our work can be our message. Don't underestimate, friends, if you lead businesses or even work in businesses or whatever it looks like, don't underestimate the message you're giving off just by how you arrive. Someone came to me after week 2, said, Dill, I've decided in this series, all I'm going to do, my work is like still new. All I'm going to do is when I arrive, I'm going to arrive with a smile. I'm going to arrive saying hello to every employee, got 50 employees in the workplace. I'm going to make sure that they know I'm excited to be there and hope that they get excited too. Let me tell you, his workplace 3-4 weeks later looks totally different because your work is your message. All right, what are you communicating to the world? Today, I want to look at something that I believe will challenge our perspective of eternity. I want to call it, we're a people of the future. Tap your neighbor and say, you are a people or a person of the future. We are people of the future. See, most of the series has been about looking back into Eden, Genesis, all right? Looking back to how Adam was created, why Adam was created, what Adam was created for. You see, all the goodness of Genesis was lost when Adam and Eve chose to believe the lie rather than God's promise. But before that happened, there was this perfect scenario called Eden. There was purpose, there was provision, there was protection. It was amazing. And much of this series has been looking back to that, realizing God wants to restore that, all right? But if you look at the New Testament, a lot of what the writers are doing is they're looking forward. And so I want to just take this last moment, a kind of bonus installment of the series, if you like, and I want to seriously look forward, all right? We've looked back, what we were created for, what work's about. Now let's kind of stretch our necks out, let's open ourselves up, and let's look forward, almost around the corner to what God is calling us to. And I really want to talk about how we see work through the lens of eternity. Seeing work through the lens of eternity, I think it can change so much. Because there's this, you've probably thought it, and I certainly have growing up. It's something God is showing me and helping me understand. There's this thought process that, we do what we need to do while we're on earth. We have our 70, 80 years. Some people, it's too soon or whatever it looks like. And then we have this moment where we're like, okay, now we leave earth and we go on an eternal vacation in the sky. All right? We call it heaven. And often it's what brings us hope when we do lose a loved one. In that we feel like at least they're in a place that's better now, all right? And that is true, but I want to stretch your imagination on this thing. I want to take it further than an eternal vacation in the clouds. I want to suggest that there is still a mandate for us beyond this life to work and make beautiful what God is going to build through eternity. I know what you're thinking. You're like, this is going to be huge. And it is. And it should be. Because what we believe sometimes is what we would call a theology of evacuation. Let me tell you what that sounds like. We do what we need to do here. Some days are good, some days are bad. Some days our kids listen, most times they don't. Some days our friendships are winning because they're on our side. Other times we feel like, why are they even my friends? All right? Not, in Belize. I'm talking about Joburg and Cape Town and all those places. Where gossip's a big thing. And, and we feel like at least one day we leave this and go to the vacation club in the clouds. That's called a theory of evacuation. It's like Jesus is going to come back and he's going to sweep us all up and he's going to leave, just listen to this, he's going to leave behind the work of our hands and some people. And some of the beauty and the North Coast sunrise over the ocean in winter, which is one of the best in the world, by the way. And he's going to come back and he's going to scoop us up into a big megabus, and we're all going to go and join him in the vacation club in the clouds forever. That's called evacuation. That's called like you were living in something beautiful, now it's gone. I honestly don't know that that's what God has for us, and I want to challenge your thought process on this. Because I don't think that he wants us to believe in this idea of evacuation. I don't think that this is where it ends. I believe that the work we do today, the work we forge today, will find us in tomorrow. I'm want to help you with this a bit, because right now you're all thinking, I'm not sure I'm coming back to this church. I was pretty pumped about the vacation club. What does all this have to do with eternity? Because haven't you heard that saying often when someone gets to the back end of their life, or they're considering their life and they're looking at all the money they've made or whatever it's looked like, significance, and they go, what's it all worth? It's just going to, what's the word? Burn up anyway. I want to take you to a scripture where we get that statement from that will help you understand that's not what it was saying. And what you do matters, and what you do will matter not just for today but for eternity. In 2 Peter 3, we read a statement. Peter is now talking to the church. He's writing a letter to the church, and Peter is motivating the church. Don't give up. Don't let it go, Linc Church. Don't feel like what you're doing is a waste of time. Stay your line, hold your line, stay the course. God's going to make South Africa better. God's going to build a great church. God's got a great plan. That's what he's doing back in his day to the church and the people that he is speaking to. And listen to what he says. He says in 2 Peter chapter 3, but the day of the Lord will come like a thief. The heavens will disappear with a roar, and the elements will be destroyed by fire. There's our word. And the earth and everything done in it will be laid bare. And we take this idea and we come to the end of our lives and we say, what's the point anyway? It's just going to get destroyed. It's all going to be burned up. Now, that would be true if you read that verse on its own, but not if you see it in context. And so much of God's story is finding context. So much is not just reading one verse and going, that's what it means for me. No, it meant something for those people. It means something for other people, and your story fits into a big story. And so the context of this verse, let me help you. Peter is speaking to some guys, and he's saying, listen, guys, God is going to come one day, and there is going to be a destroying that does take place, and it's going to be a destroying by fire. And he's going to cause the earth to be laid bare. But the context that he gives it in is through the context of the flood, Noah's flood. Remember when the Lord told Noah to build him an arky? Because there was going to be a floody children of the Lord. Remember that song? Anyone learn that? You know, children of the Lord told Noah. Just reminiscing. And now Peter's using that same idea to explain what's going to happen one day. Now think about the flood, just a moment. When the flood was over, did the earth cease to exist? No, it didn't. When the flood was over, did much of the beauty on the earth cease to exist? No, it didn't. The waters subsided, the mountains peeked through, the trees sprung to life again. All that was secured and saved was released again, and the world started beaming with life again. Peter's using the same language now to describe a day that will come. And he's saying this time it won't happen with water. It's going to happen with fire. But the picture we have is it's going to all be burned up. This thing's done and a new thing's going to start. That's not what he was saying, friends. What he was saying was everything that is evil, the injustice, the corruption, the exploitation, the backstabbing, the gossip, the unnecessary blood spill. All these things will be burned up so that only that which God intended will remain. It's less of a chaotic process and more of a cleaning process. I want you to see that and understand that, because how you view a day to come will shape how you spend your day to day. All right? And so he was saying it's not about wiping this thing out. It's about wiping this thing clean. Now, you're an architect, and you've been a part of designing some of the greatest buildings in Southern Africa, maybe even the world. You're a builder, and you were building those buildings. You're an interior designer, and you made what was outside look good inside. All right? Maybe you're a landscaper and you took what was a mediocre piece of grass and you made it come alive. Or you're a teacher and you took someone that couldn't even spell and helped them become a professor. or you're in marketing or whatever it looks like, and you have all these things that you're doing, and you're making the world better, and you're claiming it. My work matters, it's my ministry, it's also my message. And then one day you get into your old age, you go, actually, I don't know what it actually counted for. What is it all going to it's just going to be burned up. No. Let's redefine something here today. We are people of the future, and what we do today will find us in tomorrow. It's not just going to be burned up. Some stuff will, but the good stuff remains. I want you to get this. We are people of the future. There's an amazing scripture in Isaiah 65 when he speaks about a new heaven and a new earth. Now, this phrase comes up 3 times in the Bible. It shouldn't be laughed off. All right? Different people at different times bring up this idea that there will be a new heaven and a new earth. And I want to kind of bring some clarity on this thing. There is a day coming that has been described by people like Isaiah that's going to be really powerful. Listen to what he says. Isaiah 65 in verse 17. He says, see, I will create. He's giving a picture of the future. See, I will create a new heaven and a new earth. The former things will not be remembered, nor will they come to mind. But be glad and rejoice forever in what I create. For I will create Jerusalem to be a delight and its people a joy. Verse 21, they will build houses and dwell in them. They will plant vineyards and eat their fruits. No longer will they build houses for others to live in, or plant that others may eat. For as the days of a tree, so will be the days of my people. Listen to this. My chosen ones, it's you and I, friends. It's those who say yes to God. My chosen ones will long enjoy the work of their hands. Isaiah paints a picture of a beautiful future, a new heaven and a new earth. He's describing Eden again. All right? But he's describing it not just as a garden, but as a city. There's a new thing happening. All right? And in the midst of what he describes, he says, and long will they enjoy the work of their hands. Hang on. I thought I was going up into the clouds for an eternal vacation. It's hard down here, God. No. There is a new heaven and a new earth. Now, we read this word heaven and we picture a God's dwelling, like that's where he lives. Here's where we live, that's where he lives. But this word heaven it's not what it's referring to. It's literally referring to the sky or the universe. All right? The sky, much like Genesis 1 said, so God created the heavens and the earth. What he was saying in that moment was, he didn't create where he lives, he already had a place to hang out. He created the heavens and the earth. He created and formed the sky or the universe, or what you and I would claim to be the universe. He created that and where our feet land, the earth. Now Isaiah is saying, I see a new one of those. I see a better one of those. I don't see just where God hangs out. I see where we hang out. The beauty of what he created, what in the beginning he called good, I see it again. The writer John in the book of Revelation says the same thing. I see a new heaven and a new earth. There's like this draw in humanity that there is something coming that's better than what we have. Amen. There is something coming that beats what we have today. Relationally, financially, experientially, if you want to call it that, just in what we experience around us. There's a day coming, friends. I got to believe it. Otherwise, why would we fill this house week in and week out if it weren't for the hope that there is a day coming and what God has started, he will bring to a flourishing finish that is better than what we have today. But this word heaven is not where God dwells. It's what the universe is, the sky, the universe. This word new, such a cool word. It's a word kainos, sorry. And it actually means more than new, it means renewed. Now that changes this a bit. Now let's look what Isaiah is saying to us. There's a day coming. There's a day coming. And by the way, history is separated into 2 ages. That age and the age to come. This age, the Bible writers would write, the Jewish age, the ancient Hebrew age, that age and the age to come. And we're living in between the two. And Isaiah is saying there's an age to come that doesn't look like this age, broken, painful, toiling. There's an age to come that's better. And it's an age that brings about a new heaven and a new earth. But heaven's not where God lives. It's heaven's part of where we live. And this word new doesn't just mean it's going to be abolished and burnt up and set up. No, it means renewed. This is good news. Because this means the way you're raising your children, the way you're forging their future will find you in yours. The way you're forging your business, the way you're going about building a generous business and a front-footed business and a business that makes humanity better and a business that brings employment through and a business that unites different tribes, cultures, nationalities for everybody to win. The way you're doing that, the way you're forging that, because it's not always easy, but the way you're forging that, it will be renewed and you will enjoy it in your future. This is crazy. You know, some people, certainly I've thought this, would assess life in two phases, now and then. And so we call the then phase life after death. You've heard that, right? And we take heart in life after death because there are stories, tragic stories where people, their life is taken too early. There are others where those have lived a great life. But both those people we take heart because they're in a life after death, eternity. But scholars that believe that what we do today finds us in tomorrow, and there are many of them, that believe that the new heaven and new earth wasn't just a new reality, it was actually a better version of the current reality. They say it like this: life after death. Why do they do that? Because life after death is the vacation club picture. Life after death is that vacation club, and those that have left us and those that are left behind, all of us together are invited back into a story. I know this sounds crazy, but why would you join if it wasn't? We're invited back into the story, and we all go about our work again. And we all go about God's original mandate to make Eden, not just forests, but cities and humanities and beautiful humanities. And it's almost like we're not just going to hang out in the sky. Why would you want to? We are going to still be ourselves back then, over there, somewhere. I know it's playing with your mind, but it should. Because actually, if God created you one way, God says, you're fearfully and wonderfully made. Every detail is taken care of. He did that not just for 70 or 80 years, friends. He did that because there is an eternity that He has called us all to that will continue to build and make better what He's already started. It's powerful. Isaiah picks up on this. And so what you do today matters for tomorrow. It's interesting we say go to heaven when we die, but actually the word often used in the Bible is the word sleep. You don't read go to heaven. You read they're asleep. Sleep suggests that they're still connected, just in a different state. Can I say it like that? Sleep suggests that there's a pause between where we released you back into what you were always born for. Sleep suggests that there is a time frame which will change into an awakeness, which will cause us to go back into what we were born for. I think the church needs to catch hold of, and it's not just you and I believe everyone, we need to catch hold of, friends. What we do matters. How we do it matters, and it will be found in our tomorrow. And God is renewing the earth. Jesus actually used these exact words. He called it the renewal of all things. What Jesus is coming to do is not burn up what is already here. Because let's be honest, there's amazing things around us. I just think about the sunrise, or I just think about the friendships, or I just think about some of the amazing business concepts that people have come up with, and I think He's going to take all that, trash it, and start again. No, He's going to burn up what isn't of Him and bring to life what was always meant to be for us. Friends, what we're doing today matters for tomorrow. Could it be? Let me just ask the question. Some people are like, this pastor going crazy. Could it be that heaven's not our home? It's a waiting place. Could it be that heaven's where God lives? Could it be that heaven's His home? Could it be? I'm just asking the question. And could it be that actually there is a sleeping moment that will change one day? And could it be that the renewal of this heaven, it's in the Bible. He put it there for a reason. Could it be that the earth will be renewed and it will always be our home? Could it be? Could it be that actually we're closer connected to the future God has planned for his people than what we even realize? Could it be that loved ones that have left us, could it be that we won't just unite somewhere and have to find each other in this massive crowd singing songs for the rest of our lives like Amazing Grace? Could it be that we will be back on a renewed earth, feet on the ground, connected with heaven, doing what we're always born to do? Could it be? I think we battle with this because we're not sure God is able. And I think we battle with this because we also battle with why we're even here right now. But if I had to suck the negative out of your here right now, and I had to just leave the God-reinforced positive with you, now I couldn't do that. There's too much happening against what. But if I could, do you not agree? We might have some more of this. Now I can't, but Jesus can. And he will. And when he does, we will have this. But for now, do what you do. And now do what you do to the glory of God. It's your message. It's like you're this massive beacon of light just flashing, you know. It's like, follow me. There's a better story here. Like, check out how I work and check out how I love and check out how I serve and see how I bring about social justice. And it's like there's this light flickering on your head for anyone that's wondering what the future of humanity looks like, saying, follow me. I'm onto something. Friends, we're onto something. And it didn't start with my concept. It started with God's grace. And what began with His grace in the midst of my chaos. Don't you believe that's already started? Man, I'll tell you some of my story, like when Jesus and I started talking about what this whole Christian thing was all about. I don't even know why He wanted to chat with me. But He was so kind, and He found me when I was at my worst, and He started to bring out my best, and He started to renew all things. And He's still renewing all things. And I believe my life's message is to help others realize there is a life beyond the moment of faith that you say yes to Jesus that looks a little bit different to how it started. And He's renewing. And yes, it's only in part. One day it will be in full. But Isaiah saw it, John saw it, Jesus claimed it. I got to believe it. What you do today matters for tomorrow. Now, I just want to close with one last thing. If all of what we do, even if it does matter for tomorrow, if we do it for ourselves, we've only arrived halfway. Because God imagined a humanity, not a human. And if what we do is all for our own story, I mean, it's awesome. We get the Work It series, go back into work on Monday mornings, like best day ever. I actually picked up Torba, who looks after, he's a barista here at Wonderland on the weekends. He's a legend. Guy with shaved hair, Torba, legend. And we picked him up on the way through here. And he said to my girls, he was like, hey girls, how you doing? You had a good weekend? And they're like, yeah. And he's like, welcome to the best day ever, as he said in the car. I was like, imagine every day was like that, you know. Torba, for Torba it is. But even if you go back into work believing it's the best day ever, or believing that your work counts, or believing that there's a message in the madness of that day, if it ends with you, then I would ask, what was it for? You see, in Mark chapter 9, Jesus has this encounter with his disciples. They're walking on their road to the next kind of location, and his disciples are arguing about who's the greatest. You've probably heard the story. And Peter's having a go, and John's having a go, and it's like, I'm greater than you, and you're greater than me, and you know the whole guy's doing their thing. And Jesus just ignores it. Because he realized that's not an important conversation. Who's got the biggest business, or the most obedient children, or you know the best fashion sense? Those are menial conversations. That's a greatness conversation that his disciples were having, all right? Now, we don't have those, but they were having them back in the day. Facebook never entertains those conversations. And so they're bantering, and Jesus just keeps going. He's like, he ignores it totally. And they come into the town, and he performs a few miracles. And he sits down, and he's like, guys, what was happening back there? You know, and they just jump in. Peter was claiming that he's going to be the greatest. And Peter's always claiming he's the greatest. And in fact, Peter doesn't stop talking Jesus. Peter, what's up with Peter? Like, could we just sideline him for the next mission, please? Peter's like, Jesus, they don't even know. They don't even know what I did back there with the fish deal when I put the net the other side and boom, I had the fish thing. They don't even know my story, Jesus. They don't even understand that I walked on water. They weren't even there. They were sleeping, Jesus. And then the other guy goes, but you didn't. And they're having this conversation. And Jesus said, okay, here's it's going to work. He who wants to be the greatest of all. And they're like, yeah. He said, needs to become the servant of all. They're like, what? It's like Donkey and Shrek. When Shrek, finally gives him a line. He's like, huh? You need to become the servant of all. Now Peter's like, so what? And Jesus goes on, he says, yeah. It's like a child. Whoever welcomes a child into the kingdom of heaven is like he's welcoming me. They're like, no, Jesus, we're not talking about children now. In that day and age, kids were the lowest rung of the ladder. Do you know that? This day and age, they're the highest rung. It's like the pendulum swung hectically. Now they get whatever they want. Now they bust into the room. That shouldn't be encouraging. But back then, they weren't even allowed in the room. It was the opposite extreme. So you've got to understand, Jesus starts out by saying, must become a servant. And they're like, nah, must become a child. And they're like, what? He gives an example. He says, bring me that child, probably in the background. And they run the child down. The disciples are like trying to stay close. The child can't get through. Like, and let the child through. Gets on Jesus' lap, listen to what he says. Took the child, put him in his arms, and he said to them, whoever welcomes one of these little children, Mark chapter 9, in my name welcomes me. And whoever welcomes me does not welcome me, but the one who sent me. And they have a moment, and they say, but Jesus, we were driving out demons in your name. Driving out demons, like that. We were doing the big stuff in your name. And Jesus is like, yeah, I'm going to go back to my same example. If you welcome a child, you welcome me. But Jesus, we built that big business that gave away so much money. And Jesus, we had scriptures all over our kids' cupboards. Like, man, we had Psalm 139, Jeremiah 29:11. We were just claiming it in our home, Everywhere, Jesus. We were that family. We went to church 5 times in a 4-week month. Like, Jesus, that was who we are. When the buckets came around and everyone else was just tipping, Jesus, we weren't tipping. We were throwing everything at it. Jesus, that's a big deal. And it's like he looks at all that and he says, hang on, whoa. All I'm saying is if you welcome a child. Now listen to the example he gives beyond this. He says, I tell you the truth. Whoever gives a cup of water in my name, because you belong to Jesus, will certainly not lose their reward. See, here's the disciples. Here's you and I arguing about what we've built for God. How well we've done. How well we're doing. God, will you join my team if I just do this? Someone once said, don't start something and ask God to bless it. Ask him what he's already blessing and then go and do that. Because we love him joining our team, but the gospel doesn't work like this. The invitation was for us to join his team. And the disciples been saying, like, this is what our team does, and this is how our world works, and this is why my business is better than yours, and my life, and my this, and my that, and my Facebook status, and my Instagram account got more followers, and whatever. And Jesus, like this example, he says, those who just give a cup of water in my name, I tell you, will not lose their reward. And here's what I realized. Some of us have written off our contribution because we feel like it's just a cup of water. It's not the great thing. For some of us, we're just moms, right? Well, that's a cup of water that's worthy of some reward. For some of us, we're serving at a low level in an organization. Perhaps it's even just sweeping and cleaning, and it doesn't look like the highest level, but it's a cup of water, right? What if everything we did was just a cup of water? What if whether you were the CEO or the sweeper of the factory floor, what if that was water and both waters deserved equal reward? I can imagine the disciples like, oh, we're so dumb. Like, Jesus, we're sorry. Sorry for making this about what we could do. What we could do. It's always been about you. And some will get to drive out demons and build big businesses. Some never will. But I got a simple question for you today, church, as we close out this series. Your work matters. It's going to find you in your future. Trust me, what we're doing today is not going to be burnt up and left behind for tomorrow. God knows what He's doing. He started something that He will renew and finish. What's your order? What's your water? What does it look like for you to wake up holding that cup of water and pour it out on humanity? Because at the end of the day, that's what the invitation of this series has been all about. Why don't you stand with me? I'm going to read a section from this book that is really, this book has really spoken to me, and it's called Garden City by a guy, John Mark Comer. And I'd invite you to read it if you get a chance. And at the back end of the book, he's kind of summarizing his thoughts. And I figured it would be a good way for me to finish this series for us today. And so we've been through this series. We've got the matter thing. We've got the ministry thing. We know it's not just about today. It's about tomorrow. And he says this: I wrote this book to flood the engine of your dreams with nitrogen. I hope and pray that reading this gives you a shot of vision and courage and faith to step out and do whatever it is that God had in mind the day He thought you up. Go to school and get your PhD. Become a surgeon or a professor. Drop out of school and start a business if that's what's required. Move to the inner city and work for justice in the middle of gentrification. Or move to Tribeca. I'll just say I'm Schlanger because he's talking in American. Make $1 billion and give it away for the kingdom. Invest in your children like every day is your last. Treat them like the future world makers they actually are. Solve the energy crisis. He says, will somebody please come up with an alternative to the tomato packet? Tomato sauce packet? If you could do anything, fill in the blank. You're a king, my friend. A queen, my girl. So rule the world. Chase the sun over the horizon and drag the rest of us with you. We're behind you all the way. Just remember one last thing. If your dreams are all about you, then your dreams are way too small. You need to dream larger. Larger than your job or your career or your net worth or your name or your body. You need dreams as large as that of Jesus' vision of the kingdom. A kingdom where greatness has been radically redefined around a crucified Messiah. Where children are the guests of honor. Where servants lead and leaders serve. Where the last are first. Whatever your calling is, whatever you end up doing with your life, please don't do it for yourself. That is such an overdone, cliched, uncreative way of living. We've been there. We've done that. And it's a waste of oxygen. Do your work as an expression of love and service, ultimately to God and then to your neighbor. Listen to this. Maybe you'll make a ton of money, or maybe you'll just have enough. Maybe you'll become a household name all over the world. The odds are you won't. Maybe you'll see a reward this side of resurrection, or maybe not until the next. But none of that matters. That's not why you do it. You do it because God made you to do it. Because it's good and it makes the world better. Because it has a bearing on this world that takes us into the world to come. Because when all is said and done, work matters. So to anybody reading this book, wherever you are, whatever you do, may you become great in the full, deep, true, and panoramic sense of the word, one glass of water at a time.